We are now in the second day of the ceasefire between Israel and militant group Hezbollah in Lebanon. The latest on what's happening there coming up in about 10 minutes on World Report. One thing we do know is that many people displaced by the fighting either are heading home or hope to do so in Lebanon. Osama Rkieh is 9,000 kilometers from his own home in Toronto. The Lebanese Canadian flew into Beirut with Islamic Relief Canada in September. That was just before Israeli troops invaded the south of Lebanon. Since then, Osama has been providing relief to displaced people as a volunteer, and we've reached him now in Caron, Lebanon. Osama, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Good morning for where we are in the world. Good afternoon for where you are. Tell me the ceasefire, when we knew that it was being worked on, when it actually kicked in. What went through your mind?
Yes, so it definitely took some time for me to believe that we're actually going into a ceasefire. There was a lot of close calls before that where we had our hopes up that we will get into a ceasefire, and then the fighting will resume. The attacks will become even more vicious, even more civilian casualties would occur. So this time was no other in that sense. Everyone was in sort of a disbelief until that 4 a.m. mark hit and fighting actually stopped. It was a worrisome one because although it's a 60-day ceasefire, there's still no full ceasefire. And there is a potential for fighting to resume at any point. Just today, there has been over 6 breaches to the ceasefire on the southern borders. Some civilians are still unable to reach their homes and their hometowns. Although many of them were able to go back to the south, those who lived on the borderline are still unable to reach. So they had to go back to their collective shelters, to the schools, to the community shelters and whatnot. So there's still some sort of hecticness going around here, but it's relatively calmed down quite a bit since the ceasefire began.
Osama, how old are you?
I'm 22.
What brought you there? You've gone as a volunteer. What was the motivation?
Yeah, so I have a lot of family back home. I'm deeply connected to my homeland. As soon as I heard that the war began in Lebanon, my first instinct was, how can I help in the way I can? And luckily for me, I actually work for a relief aid charity that operates heavily in Lebanon. So I had an opportunity that not many else had. So I jumped at it as soon as I was able to. And yeah, here I am.
And what are you doing there?
So right now we are actually distributing life essential aid. Just now we finished a hot meals distribution to a town that was actually evacuated, where over 3,000 of the civilians that live there came to my town and in the western Bekaa Valley. And today, instead of distributing hot meals to them in their collective shelters, we actually got to distribute food to them in their homes as they go back to clean up and to recollect what happened. Whoever still has a house that's up was able to go in and clean it up, and whoever had his house bombed is now working on rebuilding it. So we were there for them, trying to give them the support we can. And yeah.
Your parents are in Dubai now?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. What do they think? Your parents must have got worried about you being in country during all of this.
Yeah, correct. They were actually extremely worried when I first told them. It took a little time to convince them, but at the end of the day, they have a lot of family themselves too, so they knew I was going for a good cause, and eventually they were very supportive of it.
So now what? What happens with you next?
As of right now, we're still doing our relief supports here on the ground. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to rebuild this country. This country has been going through crisis after crisis for the past decade almost. And we are hoping that the international community essentially supports Lebanon through this. We hope Canadians are able to support this country through this tough time. So far, we are 3 months into the school year, and it's been a very destructive school year, as well as last year. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in the education system and the social system. A lot of institutions were destroyed. A lot of hospitals were heavily impacted. A lot of core items for this country to run and become a prosperous country need to be rebuilt. So this is on a macro level. In terms of a micro level, a lot of people are still in the evacuation centers, although the war has ended, because they have no home to go back to. So these people still need the support, whether it's financial, whether it's through aid, or whether it's psychological support.
Osama, I imagine you've been busy and barely had time to just stop and think, but I do wonder if there's ever been an opportunity in the 2 crazy months you've been through there where you've just been able to sit down on the ground and think about what you've seen and what you've done and what goes through your mind.
Yeah, sometimes I try to process through that before going to sleep. It's not easy. Every day you see devastation. You get to a point where you're immune to it when you're in the moment, helping people who fled death, essentially, where they have their children who were killed, their siblings, their husbands, their wives, and seeing them and just having to run through your day as if that's a normal thing. So just because if you cannot break down in front of them, you cannot think of that in front of them and show that to them, because they need the support, not me. And then when I go back home, sometimes you hear stories. We do a lot of interviews with those who have evacuated, and you hear stories that are just horrific. Like, I wouldn't understand how someone can go through that and still be sane. It's horrific at the end of the day. And right now, a lot of these atrocities are being shown. A lot of these people who went through these things are starting to realize that, oh, my child who was killed in a bombing, who's an innocent 17, 16-year-old child, is now gone. The war is over. There's a ceasefire now, but they're gone. We cannot bring them back. That's a very tough thing to go through.
Well, Osama, thank you very much for speaking with us. And you've been taking care of a lot of people. I hope you're able to take care of yourself as well. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
That is Osama Rkieh, who is a Lebanese-Canadian volunteer from Toronto, but we reached him today in Kowroon, Lebanon.